It was 1:58 a.m. when the feed from camera 9 flickered. That corridor should have been empty. It always was. The area had been sealed off last year after a supposed chemical spill the higher-ups never explained. But on the screen, I saw movement. A figure, tall, broad-shouldered, stood in the shadows. At first, I thought it was just static, but then the man stepped forward. His face was wrong. Not disfigured, not scarred, just unfinished. Like someone had sketched the idea of a human and stopped before filling in the details. My headset buzzed with a low hum. A voice crackled through, faint, distorted. "Stay where you are." I yanked the headset off instantly. Protocol 3. Yeah, I should explain. My name's Caleb Monroe. I'm the night shift CCTV supervisor for a government facility just outside Des Moines. Officially, we're an archival storage center. Unofficially, I know better. The first day on the job, they slid me a laminated card with 12 protocols. No explanations, just rules. Protocol 1. If you see someone on a feed who shouldn't be there, do not attempt visual confirmation. Protocol 2. Never speak to anyone you see in the restricted wings. Protocol 3. If the feed distorts and you hear your name or any voice at all, remove your headset and remain silent for 10 minutes. I thought it was a joke. Government paranoia. But tonight, watching that faceless figure breathing in the dark, I realized the rules weren't a joke at all. The man on the screen tilted his head as though he knew I was watching. Then, without moving his lips, the voice returned, clearer this time. "Caleb!" I shoved the headset away. The room was silent, except for the quiet hum of the monitors. My eyes flicked back to camera 9. The corridor was empty now, except something remained on the floor. A chair, wooden, old-fashioned, like it had been pulled from a farmhouse dining room, and carved into the backrest, in jagged letters that hadn't been there before, was one word: run. I leaned closer to the monitor, squinting at the chair. The word was clear as day: run, though no one had entered the corridor, and the feed hadn't cut to black long enough for anyone to place it there. My pulse hammered. Against my better judgment, I flipped to the access logs. No entries, no swipes, no activity, and yet a chair. I pulled the laminated rules card from my breast pocket. The edges were already worn from constant handling. I read them again, even though I'd memorized every line weeks ago. Protocol 7. If foreign objects appear in sealed corridors, report using the encrypted terminal only. Do not attempt direct communication. The terminal sat in the corner of my booth, an ugly beige box from the 1980s with a black screen and green text. I logged in, typed carefully. Incident report 2:04 a.m. Camera 9. Unauthorized object present. Wooden chair. Markings carved into surface. Word: run. The terminal blinked. Response: report received. Maintain observation. Do not investigate. I exhaled shakily and turned back to the monitors. Camera 9 showed the chair still sitting in the middle of the corridor. Perfectly still. Perfectly ordinary. Except it hadn't been there seconds ago. I checked other cameras to distract myself. The parking lot empty. The stairwells still. Camera 14, the records room, looked normal at first. Then I noticed something wrong. Someone was sitting at one of the tables. They weren't moving. Just sitting. Hands folded neatly. Staring at the camera like they'd been waiting for me to find them. My first thought, another trespasser. But then I leaned closer. It was me. Same uniform. Same posture. Same weary look from too many sleepless nights. But there was one difference. The other me was smiling. My stomach dropped. I reached for the radio instinctively, then froze. Protocol 5. Never use verbal communication when duplicates are observed. My hands trembled as I typed another report into the terminal. Unauthorized subject. Camera 14. Duplicate observed. Identical appearance to employee Caleb Monroe. The response was almost instant this time. Maintain distance. Do not engage. If duplicate moves, initiate lockdown protocol beta. I turned back to the feed. The duplicate me was still sitting, still smiling, until he slowly raised his hand and waved at me. And then, without breaking eye contact, he mouthed something. 3 words. Don't trust them. The smile lingered on the duplicate's face. Wide, patient, unsettling. On the screen, his lips moved again, slower this time, like he wanted to be sure I understood. They're lying to you. My throat went dry. I slammed the headset back over my ears before remembering Protocol 3. Idiot. I ripped it off just as quickly, holding my breath. 10 minutes of silence. No exceptions. Except silence didn't come. From the monitors, a faint whisper leaked into the booth. No headset, no speakers. Just raw sound bleeding through the equipment. Caleb. The duplicate tilted his head, and, as if to punctuate the whisper, the chair on camera 9 screeched across the floor. It hadn't been touched. It hadn't even rocked. It just moved. My laminated rule card felt heavier in my hand. Something inside me screamed to leave, to do what what the chair had carved into its wood. Run, but protocol said otherwise. I checked the terminal again. A new line had appeared, not in the system's usual blocky green font, but in glowing red. Lockdown initiated. Remain in boot. Do not attempt exit. The monitors flickered. One by one, the feeds died. Static, then black. All except camera 14. The duplicate me stood now. Same uniform, same crooked tie, but his eyes weren't mine anymore. Too dark, too steady. He leaned forward, closer to the lens, until only his face filled the screen. And then he spoke. This time, I heard it clearly. Not through the radio, not through the room, straight inside my head. They've told you about the rules, Caleb, but not about the reasons. Do you want the truth? My breathing came ragged. Against everything screaming in me not to, I nodded. The duplicate grinned wider. Good, then listen closely. You're not guarding a facility. You're guarding a doorway. The feed snapped to static, and for a heartbeat the whole booth went dark. When the monitors blinked back to life, the duplicate was gone. But the chair on camera 9? Now it wasn't empty anymore. Someone was sitting in it, and it was me. The sight froze me in place. On camera 9, the corridor's chair was no longer just a chair. It was an execution seat. My own face stared back at me from the monitor, seated stiffly, hands folded neatly in its lap like it was posing for an old photograph. It wasn't smiling this time. It was watching, waiting. My stomach nodded. I checked the laminated rules again, desperate for guidance, but the plastic card fell. Wrong. Heavier. Warmer. I held it up to the light. New words were scratched into the lamination, as if carved from the inside. Protocol 13. If a second version of yourself is seated, you must not look away. My pulse quickened. That wasn't there before. There had only ever been 12 rules. I blinked, glanced back at the screen. The seated me was closer. Not the camera zooming, not the perspective changing. The thing itself had shifted forward, a foot nearer to the lens. I didn't look away again. Couldn't. The booth felt smaller. The hum of the monitors deeper, like the whole system was holding its breath. And then the encrypted terminal blinked awake on its own. Greater than override detected. Greater than updating protocols. Lines of text spilled across the black screen faster than I could process. Dozens of new rules. Numbers climbing beyond anything I'd ever seen. Protocol 47. Protocol 82. Protocol 126. Each more impossible than the last. If you see yourself in a corridor, do not blink. If your duplicate smiles, answer its question truthfully. If the booth door knocks, never open it until the third attempt. The chair on camera 9 creaked. The seated version of me leaned forward, eyes catching the fluorescent glow. For the first time, I saw his lips move deliberately. One word. Soon, the terminal froze. The monitors flickered. And then, 3 sharp knocks rattled the booth door behind me. The knocks echoed through the booth. 3, exactly as the new protocol had warned. Every hair on my arms stood up. The door had never knocked before. This booth was buried in reinforced concrete, its only entrance locked from my side. I turned, eyes locked on the handle. It didn't move. Instead, the encrypted terminal lit up again, its green text jagged with distortion. Greater than remember. Do not open until the third attempt. My throat went dry. That had been the third attempt. The rules weren't guiding me anymore. They were controlling me. On the monitors, camera 9 showed the seated version of myself still in the chair. Except, no, my seat was empty now. I was gone. The figure in the chair leaned its head lazily to one side, and for the first time, it spoke aloud through the feed. You're stalling. The booth door rattled violently, once, twice, like someone or something was testing its strength. The laminated card in my hand quivered. New lines etched themselves across the plastic like they were being burned in real time. Protocol 14. If the door knocks more than 3 times, you are no longer in control. As if to drive the point home, the knocking started again. 4, 5, 6. Each strike louder, sharper, shaking the walls. The figure on camera 9 grinned at me from its wooden throne. Its eyes were bottomless, pits of static. You know what's behind the door, it said softly, almost kindly. It's not them. It's you, the one who never followed the rules. The knocking stopped, and in the silence that followed, I heard the handle begin to turn. Not fast, not forced, deliberate. The sound of someone who already had the key. The handle turned with a slow metallic scrape. I pressed myself back against the monitors, heart thundering. The door should have been sealed. I'd locked it myself, but locks didn't matter here. Not anymore. The encrypted terminal blinked away. Greater than emergency revision. Do not resist entry. The laminated card in my hand shivered. Words bubbling up beneath the plastic like veins under skin. Protocol 15. If the other you arrives, let him in. The door clicked, and then it opened. Standing in the threshold was me. Not the smiling doppelganger from camera 14. Not the motionless reflection reflection from camera 9. This version was exact. My sweat, my uniform, my trembling hands. Only one thing was different. His eyes. They were steady. Too steady. Finally, he said, stepping inside. You're making this harder than it needs to be. I stumbled backward. What are you? He smirked. What you'll become if you stop clinging to the rules. The monitors flickered violently. Every feed showed me dozens, hundreds of versions, each performing the same motions in different timelines. Writing reports, walking hallways, sitting in this very booth, all staring back at me. My duplicate extended a hand, calm, certain. The protocols aren't there to protect you, Caleb. They're there to prepare you. This place doesn't need a guard. It needs a replacement. The terminal spat a single, blood-red line, greater than assimilation in progress. On camera 9, the seated version of me leaned forward, slowly curling its fingers in a beckoning motion. My duplicate's voice softened, almost kind. Choose. Sit in the chair, or I will. The card slipped from my grasp, hitting the floor. The booth lights flared. For a breathless moment, I saw it all. Every version of me across every timeline. Some sat, some fought, some ran. None escaped. I wasn't guarding the doorway. I was the doorway. The knocking returned. Inside my skull this time. 3 sharp strikes. I took a step forward. The duplicate smiled. And then I sat. The chair's wood bit cold into my spine. The carved word run pressed against me like a cruel joke. On the monitors, my duplicate calmly slipped into my booth chair, sliding on the headset like it belonged to him all along. The feeds blinked. My world went dark. And me? I'm still here, in the chair, watching, waiting. Because one day, when the next supervisor breaks the rules, I'll need a replacement too. So tell me, if you were the one stuck in that booth, would you follow the rules? Or would you break them? Comment your choice below. And remember, never, ever answer the third knock.